I never thought one quiet evening would change the way I looked at him, or myself, forever. It was late, nearly past everyone's usual quitting time, yet the office still hummed faintly with the sound of printers and distant footsteps. I sat at my desk in the far corner of the open floor, methodically typing up the last of my weekly reports. To be honest, staying late was nothing new for me. I'd always been the type to keep my head down, work hard, and hope that eventually someone would notice. Someone like him. Mr. Kamal was everything I wasn't. Confident, polished, impossible to ignore. He moved through the office with a quiet authority that made people straighten their backs just by his presence. He didn't smile much, but when he did, it lit up his whole face. And though he rarely spoke to me beyond polite greetings, I caught myself glancing up at his office door throughout the day, silently wishing he'd see how much I wanted to impress him. That night, as I typed the last line of my report, my phone buzzed with a notification from him. My heart skipped. "Come to my office when you're done. Need a word." I hesitated only a second before standing and smoothing out my blouse. My palms felt damp as I made my way to the glass-walled corner office. He was there, leaning casually against his desk, sleeves rolled to his elbows, his tie loosened just enough to make him look less like a boss and more like something else entirely. "Close the door," he said without looking up. I obeyed, my pulse quickening. He gestured to the chair opposite him and, for the first time in months, really looked at me. "You've been doing great work lately," he began. His voice was low, measured, almost warm. "You're one of the few people here I can actually rely on." I felt my face heat at his words. "That's why," he continued, "I need your help with something a little unusual." I tilted my head, unsure. "I need someone I trust to stay here tonight. Watch over some sensitive client files. Make sure nothing goes missing before tomorrow's meeting. You just stay here. Work if you like. I'll arrange everything, food, whatever you need." For a moment, I was too stunned to respond.
Me?
"Out of everyone? I can count on you, can I?" he asked, his gaze locking with mine. "Yes," I managed. "Of course." He smiled, one of those rare, disarming smiles, and stood. "Good. It means a lot to me." As he walked past me toward the door, he paused and added softly, "You'll do fine. I trust you." The door clicked shut behind him, leaving me alone in his office, my heart racing. For the first time, I allowed myself to wonder, was this just about the files or something more? The office was eerily quiet once everyone had gone. The usual chatter of phones, clatter of keyboards, and muffled conversations had faded into silence, leaving only the soft hum of the air conditioning. I sat alone at my boss's desk, the unfamiliar leather chair swallowing me as I tried to focus on the stack of files in front of me. But I couldn't stop thinking about him. His words still echoed in my head. "I trust you." That smile. That look in his eyes that felt like more than just professional gratitude. I let my fingers wander across his desk. It was immaculate, everything perfectly placed. Yet there were personal touches I'd never noticed before. A framed photo of his family, a silver pen engraved with his initials, and a small white box tucked neatly in the corner. Curious, I reached for it. The box was tied with a slim, red ribbon. A card rested on top. "For tonight." My breath caught in my throat. Was this for me? I slowly untied the ribbon, my heart pounding. Inside was a delicate gold bracelet, its chain glinting under the soft desk lamp. But the card beneath it made my hands go cold. "For Aisha. I can't wait to see you tonight."
Aisha. Not me.
I stared at the card, feeling a sharp twist in my stomach. It was silly, I told myself. Why would I think it was for me? But the disappointment lodged deep anyway, a bitter taste I couldn't shake. Just then, the quiet was broken by the sound of footsteps. Startled, I quickly put the box back where I found it and looked up to see him walking back into the office, a cup of coffee in each hand. "I thought you might want some company," he said casually, setting one cup down in front of me. I tried to hide my surprise and the tangle of emotions behind a polite smile. He leaned against the edge of the desk, sipping his coffee. "It's strange being here at night, isn't it?" I nodded. "It feels different, quieter." He chuckled softly. Sometimes I think I prefer it this way. No distractions. No pretense. Something in his tone made my chest tighten. We talked for what felt like hours. About work, life, loneliness. He told me things I never expected. How hard it was to lead. How isolating success could be. How he longed for someone who truly understood him. Then he reached out, fingers brushing mine. His voice dropped to a whisper. You're different. You see me, don't you? I froze, the air between us charged with something I couldn't name. And though my heart screamed at me to believe him, a faint doubt, like a shadow, lingered in the back of my mind. When I opened my eyes, pale sunlight was streaming through the office windows, casting long, golden stripes across the floor. For a brief, blissful moment, I forgot where I was. Then the memory of his words from last night, "You're different. You see me," came rushing back, filling my chest with something warm and dangerous. I sat up in the chair, rubbing the stiffness from my neck, and stretched. The files were still neatly stacked where I'd left them, untouched during the night. The building was beginning to stir again. Faint voices drifted in from the hallway, along with the scent of fresh coffee. Then I heard it. Laughter. It wasn't just anyone's laugh. It was his. Deep and low, laced with amusement in a way I hadn't heard before. Curiosity tugged at me. I stood quietly and crossed to the door, opening it just a sliver. There he was standing by the elevators. His suit jacket was slung over his shoulder, and his hand was resting lightly, intimately, on the arm of a woman I'd never seen before. She was stunning. Long, dark hair fell in loose waves around her face. She leaned into him easily, as if she'd known him forever. "Aisha," he said, his voice soft but clear enough to hear. "Everything was perfectly taken care of last night. Nothing to worry about. I told you I'd handle it." She laughed again, tilting her head toward him. "I knew I could trust you, Kamal. You always know how to make things work." I stood frozen behind the door, my breath caught in my throat. It was her. Aisha. The name on the card. The bracelet.
The gift.
The smile he'd given me. The words he'd said. None of it had been real. I was nothing more than a convenient excuse, a loyal employee to keep watch, so he could sneak away with her. A dull ache bloomed in my chest, spreading with every word they exchanged. "You're incredible," she said as the elevator doors opened. He smiled at her the same way he'd smiled at me last night. Then they stepped inside, hand in hand, and disappeared behind the closing doors. I backed away from the door, my legs suddenly weak. The files were still stacked neatly on his desk. The coffee cup from last night still sat where he'd left it. And yet the room felt colder now, hollow. A bitter thought settled in my mind. I hadn't been trusted, just used. And as the tears stung my eyes, one thing became painfully clear. I had let myself believe in something that was never meant for me. Gathering my things with trembling hands, I slipped out of the office unnoticed, leaving behind the files, the bracelet, the faint smell of his cologne still lingering in the air. Outside, the morning city was alive. Cars honking, people rushing, sunlight bouncing off glass buildings, but it all felt strangely muted, like I was moving through water. I wandered aimlessly until I found myself in a quiet park nearby. The grass was wet with dew, and the benches were empty save for a lone jogger in the distance. I sank onto a bench, my fingers twisting together in my lap, and stared blankly at the fountain in front of me. The events of the night replayed over and over in my mind. His words, his smile, the way he'd brushed his hand against mine, as though I were special, different. How easily I'd believed him. How desperately I'd wanted to. A part of me wanted to hate him, to call him cruel, manipulative. But another part, the part that hurt the most, hated myself more. For falling for it. For reading meaning into every glance and every kind word, blind to what had been right in front of me. I closed my eyes and let the cool morning air sting my cheeks, drying the last of my tears. It would be so easy to shut down completely. To harden my heart, swear off kindness and connection. But deep down, I knew that wasn't who I wanted to become. Maybe what hurt wasn't just the betrayal, but the reminder that love, real love, was something you couldn't force, something you couldn't invent out of longing. When I opened my eyes again, the fountain sparkled under the rising sun. The world hadn't ended. Life was still moving, and I would, too. I stood slowly, smoothing my skirt, and took a deep breath. Someday, someone would say those words. You're different. You see me. And mean them. Someday, I'd believe it again. But until then, I'd carry the lesson of that night with me, that my worth wasn't defined by anyone else's attention. That trust, once broken, was not so easily mended. And that I deserved more than someone who only saw me as a convenient alibi for another love. As I walked away from the park, the city growing brighter around me, I felt lighter somehow, wounded but stronger. The night in his office had changed me, not in the way I'd hoped, but in the way I needed. And though the pain still lingered like a shadow, I knew this was just the beginning of something better.